Welcome back to Yang Daily. I'll be your host, Alex Cheney, bringing you all the Yang news you need to live your life right. Some positive updates on stimulus and UBI today, some debates over vaccines, and some extremely exciting Yang news that you do not want to miss. Let's get to it. Shout out to our Tier 3 patrons, Peter Park and Shay Meehan, as well as all our other patrons. Your support is essential to keeping our community informed and engaged. Republican Senator Hawley and Bernie Sanders have joined together in supporting an amendment that demands another round of stimulus checks be included in any stimulus package. Hawley also introduced separate legislation calling for another round of $1,200 checks. McConnell has signaled that the $900 billion bipartisan bill, which excludes checks, will not be passed through the Senate. He is still objecting to local and state funding and has expressed willingness to pass a bill that includes neither local funds nor legal immunity, likely because state and local funding is finding support on both sides of the aisle. I wish that these three would just come together and pass $900 billion in stimulus checks alone. That should be something everyone can agree on. The calls for stimulus checks, even recurring checks, continue to mount. 5,600 small business owners, 54 labor and community organizations, and 25 church leaders serving more than 30 million congregants sent letters urging Congress to pass recurring stimulus checks to help struggling families and businesses throughout the economic crisis. That is a lot of people. How many would it take to change the minds of Pelosi and McConnell, I wonder? Maybe a trick question. There's been talk floating around Congress of making future stimulus conditional on getting a vaccine shot. That is to say, you get some amount of money for getting the shot. John Delaney proposed it, and Yang has endorsed the idea. That makes me uneasy, as it's placing conditions on aid. It also leads to a larger debate over responsible governance. On one hand, those who don't want to get the shot, and maybe even some who do, will object to public funds, which come from their tax dollars, being given back to them only on the condition that they do what the government wants. A sort of low-key financial hostage scenario. On the other, we've long accepted that government has a role in incentivizing or disincentivizing certain behaviors, usually when they have an impact on society at large. Every decision of what to tax or not tax is an exercise in behavioral incentives, as well as, obviously, what's legal or illegal. Personally, I'd go back to the spirit of the Constitution on this one, which is to maximize personal freedoms. One caveat of that is to mitigate actions that infringe on other people's freedoms, see murder or slavery, as not getting vaccinated can result in the deaths of others, the greatest infringement on freedom. I would say this probably falls into the responsible governance category. It's incentivizing behavior that preserves the most personal freedom. The right to life trumps all else. What really makes it so objectionable is twofold. One, that some people will be allergic and simply not able to take the shot. How does that get accounted for? Hashtag problems with conditions. And second is that particularly during this economic crisis, people need that money, which makes it less an incentive and more an imperative. And as usual, that leads us back to UBI. If we had a guaranteed survival income, the situation would be far better. No one would feel forced to take the offer because they have what they need to survive already. The vaccine money would just be an incentive for socially responsible behavior, as intended, rather than a coercive lifeline that the poor cannot afford to turn down. Just as with wage slavery, UBI is guaranteed freedom. Moving on, they can't agree to give money to starving Americans, but Republicans and Democrats did unite to pass a veto-proof military funding and policy bill through the House against Trump's threats. Trump threatened to veto the bill if his pet project / Twitter beef of repealing Section 230 was not included. Trump also threatened a veto if the provision to rename military bases that bear the names of Confederate officers was not removed. Neither of his wishes were included. The $750 billion National Defense Authorization Act will still need to pass the GOP Senate with a 2/3 majority to prevent a veto. The bill sets military spending levels, greenlights a 3% pay raise for service members, and sets a host of other policy issues. In a momentous move, the federal government and 48 states have launched multiple antitrust lawsuits against Facebook over anti-competitive behavior. The focus is on acquisition of Instagram and WhatsApp, companies that were challenging Facebook's near monopoly of the industry before being bought out. Each of them may be forcibly divested from the company in an effort to revive market innovation and competition. Pretty big deal. This next one is fairly inconsequential in the grand scheme of things, but it'll be a big topic in certain circles, I'm sure, and it's related to Biden, so there's no telling how big an issue it might become. Hunter Biden has been told that federal prosecutors are investigating his taxes. Hunter has said he's confident he's done everything by the book, and there will be no wrongdoing found. Time will tell. In today's victory across the pond, Islington became the first London borough to pass a motion in support of a UBI trial. One piece at a time, UBI Lab is turning the UK into the UBIK. Down in Georgia, Yang and faith leader Pam Keith have joined together in the fight for an emergency UBI. Among other things, they and the Black Church Leadership of America have started a petition to the Biden administration for $1,200 a month for 6 months. Please take a minute to follow the link below and add your name. I'm happy to announce that Math Movement, the nonprofit Humanity First volunteer organization, which has been canvassing up a storm in Georgia, posted a thread highlighting their canvassers, complete with goofy portraits, fun personal details, and individual links so that you can vote on your favorite canvasser when you donate to Math Movement. It's actually a really fun thread, and I recommend looking through it. It's great to see these hardworking volunteers get the recognition that they deserve. And finally, in a rare instance, Yang was included in a YouGov poll on favorability, and guess what happened? They polled people's favor among 260 of the most well-known American politicians, including McConnell, Pelosi, Schumer, Trump, Pence, AOC, finalists from the Democratic presidential primary, congressional members, and even some previous presidents. They sorted their list by just likes, but when you resort by net favorability, likes minus dislikes, something magical happens. Jimmy Carter comes in at the top if we go that far back, but among today's living national politicians, Yang came in second, just barely behind Obama, the most beloved American political figure of modern times. Second place. The top 5 were Obama at plus 26, Yang at plus 23, Madeleine Albright and Gabrielle Giffords at plus 20, and Bernie at plus 19. This is huge. This was no short list of small-timers. This is pretty much every politician of any relevance, and Yang is just shy of number 1. If you limit it to current politicians, he is number 1, and he just came on the scene a couple of years ago. Incredible. This bodes very well for future runs, gang. Very well indeed. And that'll do it for today's Yang Daily. Thank Holly and Bernie for supporting the people. Bookmark and share the letter from business, labor, and religious leaders, the Islington UBI motion, the People's Petition, the Math Canvassers thread, and the favorability poll. Sign the petition. Don't forget to put in your half hour a day of phone banking or text banking to support the efforts in Georgia. If you need help, consult Humanity Forward, the Income Movement Aid Database, the Mission Asset Fund, or United Way. And don't forget to Yang Daily.